Hello, parents. This is part two of cell phones in school. And on this video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the problems that I have personally witnessed that other teachers have witnessed in school to make you aware of how that cell phone that you've given to your child can be used. I'm going to separate it between pre-COVID and post-COVID. So pre-COVID, the policy is the same. The cell phone policy is the same as it is post-COVID. So what it says is that cell phones are not allowed in the classroom. They are not to be used. There's not to be texting. There's not to be anything going on inside that classroom. Um, every student has a Chromebook through which the teacher decides if she's going or he's going to use a Google Classroom or not. You have some classrooms that are traditional old style, paper, pencil, and use limited amounts of technology to enhance the lesson. And then some teachers use a lot of Google in their classrooms, but in any event, the use of the cell phone is prohibited. So there's a process the teachers go through to take the cell phone away, not the teacher, but the administrator, if that cell phone is out. Pre-COVID, it really was a manageable problem, in my opinion. Students knew boundaries. Students knew that they were not supposed to have it out. They knew what the consequence was if they had it out, and they were willing to not exceed that boundary. Post-COVID is a whole different story. Students, in my opinion, are addicted to the technology, as are a lot of adults. If you just pause and think about how often you use your cell phone, imagine if you are preteen, teenage years with not a fully developed brain, which is not at that point, given a device for which you can be connected 24 hours a day, and then told you're not allowed to use it between this time and this time. It really is, in many ways, an addiction. I have seen some kids really fly off the handle when they're told to put the cell phone away, downright rude. And kids that come, kids that you may know from church or from wherever, who are unwilling and feel that they are entitled. If their parents buy the phone for them, then their parents have the right to tell them when they use it. And that's not how it works in a school. It'd be the same thing if you were going to work. You can't just be on your cell phone 24 hours, because you're there, because you have it that you can use it. You'd be fired. You have to do your job. And students have to do their jobs in the classroom by being willing to learn. So it impedes instruction for sure. If kids have them out, they're definitely not, they're not listening to the teacher. They're not absorbing the lesson. But besides the instructional piece, besides that piece that I think a lot of parents understand, which is if my son Johnny has his cell phone out, he's not listening to you. He's now missed the instruction. So there's no way he's passing a quiz or a test. And yet some parents will then say to the teacher, well, when are you going to make up the work? Why would I make up the work? If he was in class at that time, he's responsible for learning. He has to be able to control himself and not use the phone. But beyond the instructional piece, there's a safety piece here that I want to make sure that we're all in sync about how things really happen. Kids, if they're allowed to have those phones out, will text other kids. They'll broadcast the time and the place for a fight, and then they will just gather. Wow, I've seen it happen over and over. Surround the fight, video the fight. It's a communication back and forth. There's also a section of the phone, you may not be aware of this, where they can hide what they videoed, so that if an administrator goes to look at it, if the phone is confiscated, if they're seen taping a fight, the administrator is supposed to take that phone and check that the video is not on there, but there's a way to hide it as well. So, kids are very resourceful when they want to be. I wish they were that resourceful in instruction, but they really are when they want to hide what it is that they've recorded. So this broadcasting system that exists between students, and I'm not just talking about those students that you may want to label those students. I've seen it every I've seen it with kids who you would never think in a million years would be part of this communication system that are, because they want to belong. and this is how it's done. So that's a very dangerous thing to have floating around. In the hallways, when kids have their phones out, they're videoing other kids. That's against the rules. If anybody sees that happening, they're supposed to go to administrator and say, "Hey, so and so just videoed that kid doing this crazy thing." Um, it's not for broadcasting private parts. Imagine if they go in the bathrooms. I'm sure parents have seen the fights that have happened, but imagine if it's, sexual in nature. Um, you would not believe some of the stuff that happens. And the other thing too, I want to make really clear about cell phones, is that teachers don't sign up to be on videos. That's not what we do. I remember a few years ago, pre-pandemic, that a kid was using Snapchat and took a new teacher who I happened to work with and took her head and put it on a naked body doing obscene things. And it was another student who said to her, "Miss, do you know you're on Snapchat?" And sure enough, showed her. And that's outside. We don't need that. You don't want that in school. So if you believe that your child is going to follow the rules, not engage in the mob mentality, not be FaceTiming during lunch with kids from other buildings, that's not allowed. If your child is not going to video anything, including a teacher or anyone who they don't have permission to video, remember again, in school, I'm also talking bus, same rules apply, and you think it's safer for your child to have that phone, even though they cannot contact you during an actual event, then that's your right. But if you allow them to take that phone to school, and they engage in inappropriate behaviors or safety related behaviors, then you have to be willing to not argue about that when the cell phone is taken away by the administrator. This is how it really happens. In all the years that I have taught, especially post pandemic, there's an unwillingness to abide by the rules. There's an entitlement. I've been on my own for a year and a half. I can do what I want when I want to do it, and you're not going to take it away because my parents bought it for me. And it's not okay. It's not acceptable. It impedes the instruction. It violates privacy. You get the gist of what I'm saying. The decision is yours. But again, if you send them with it, you have to accept the consequence. Please don't call the teacher arguing that the teacher didn't do anything. Teacher's following the rules. Teacher's following the boundary. And I just want to end with this. The only time I have ever taken my cell phone out, if I saw on my wrist that a teacher was calling me in distress, I would take it. I am not on that I am not on Facebook posting unless I'm on my break, where I'm entitled to do that outside of the building, my lunch or my break. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Snapchat. I'm not doing what I'm not supposed to be doing. I'm following the rules. All right, that's it.